the beauty about insight is you should never live through someone else in the sense that you should never portray or project someone else's experience onto you, because that's actually a huge mistake. But the beauty in seeing someone else's journey or hearing about their experience, it allows you to either avoid certain things for yourself, meaning like, okay, well, that's not what I want to happen to me, or that's very insightful, or, oh, I wouldn't do that, but I would do that. And it just allows you to reflect on what does that mean to you in your own personal experience, and how can you leverage that information to get further, quicker, better, less stressful, and make your journey more smooth. What is the one thing that you can do that will set you up for success on your CRNA journey? That's what we're going to discuss in today's episode. So let's go ahead and get into the show. For those of you who are new, welcome to CRNA School Prep Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Finnell, CRNA. And today we're going to discuss, again, the one thing that you can do that will ensure your success as you pursue becoming a CRNA. I was asked this question recently when we were at NTI, which is the National Teaching Institute through the AACN. I highly encourage you to go next year. It's in Denver. We will be there. It was a wonderful time and just awesome to see a lot of CRNA programs there. The AANA was there, and just to see all of you. And honestly, I'm every time I go, I'm always like incredibly humble and grateful. For those of you asking for my autograph, it still makes me blush. And I'm honestly just kind of, I giggle about it still, because I'm like, you know, my autograph, but it was awesome nonetheless. And I appreciate you. So thank you for stopping by if you were there and saying hi and taking pictures. I'm honestly honored to be that person for you in your life. And I'm grateful that you are in our world and you're out pursuing CRNA. And yeah, we had a student come by and he asked me some of these questions. And one of the questions was, if you could give me any one thing that would set me apart, that would make or break my journey, what would that be? And I don't know, it was kind of fun. It was fun to be put on the spot, and it was fun to kind of think like, oh, what would that be? But it actually came very quickly and very easily. So I wanted to bring a whole podcast episode on it and kind of discuss, you know, why that is and kind of how you can see that for your own journey and what that really looks like for you. But that answer to what's that one thing was really and that one skill set that you really should have in your pursuit for CRNA is discipline. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And it should, because it's not like any one form of discipline fits one person. But I think you have to understand where that fits into your life in pursuit for CRNA. And so again, that could be discipline to go back and take some courses that you really don't want to take, but you know they're getting to be 10 years old, doing those types of things. Or it could be, you know, getting 40 hours of shadowing when you already have one, you have enough to apply, but going forward and doing more to make sure that you're getting a well-rounded experience, and so that you have a better understanding of what it's actually like to be in a CRNA. Really, if you think about what is discipline, discipline is doing something that you do not want to do. It's doing something that you have to do for yourself or others. It's, again, kind of showing up day after day, even when there's no reward there for you, but putting in the work and effort, because you know over a period of time the results will come, but they're not going to be an instant results, no instant gratification. And I'm totally guilty of seeking these types of things out. I think we all are. I think we live in a society that really honors instant gratification, right? I think a lot of things are geared towards giving you that instant win, but CRNA is not one of those things. So I'm sorry, it's just not. Ask any current student, they will tell you this takes a lot of discipline, because you know it takes 3 years to get through this grueling program with no promise of graduating, with no promise of being successful. And I've had a lot of students say, but I could do all this stuff, Jenny, and I could not even get into school. Like, just because I go back and do all these courses and do all these shadowing and do all these things, change ICUs, doesn't mean I'm going to get in. And you're right. It doesn't mean you're going to get in. So how do you face that when you're like, how can I take on all these additional risks with my time, with my money, with my own sanity, when there's no promise of actually getting the result that you are out to achieve? And really, it comes down to, well, that's discipline. Discipline is doing something, not ever knowing if the reward's ever going to be there, but doing it because you believe in it, doing it because you want it so bad that doesn't matter whether you succeed or fail. You will just do it because it's what you want to do. And so that is kind of what I want to and spark within you, is that discipline to not worry about the outcome, to look at this as the process, as the journey of developing into a CRNA. And it's going to have some ups and downs, and there's no promises ahead, but believing in your yourself and knowing that you will stick it out day after day to do the things that you know it will take to get there is all that matters at the end of the day. So sticking the course and again, doing the things that you don't want to do or that feel really hard to do or that feel very uncomfortable to do, talking to the program director, connecting with them. Sometimes that's scary, right? I mean, sometimes it feels kind of awkward. What do I say? What do I ask? Maybe I just won't even do it. Well, you could be missing a huge opportunity to gather some insight on how you can help yourself down the road. So again, discipline can come in the forms of different types. And it could even be your own accountability, it could be discipline, right? And things of that nature. So if I had to pick any one trait, that's what it would be. And again, it's going to set you apart because it's going to show not just in your interview, but also in your application. The person who reviewed their essay, their personal statement 20 plus times and had multiple people look at it is probably going to seem a lot more polished and 100% will seem more polished than someone who only spent 2 or 3 revisions doing it and submitted it and never had a single eyeball lay an eye on it. So the reality is those who are willing to go and do extra things that are difficult, that take more time, that take more effort, it's going to show that you're more disciplined and you're more determined to make the outcome to the desire that you want. And so I always stress all the time, don't wait to the last minute to study. I think everyone focuses all their eggs on the application and getting the GRE and the CCRN and the ICU experience and all the shadowing and all the things because it's a lot to do. But then then they submit their application, then they start preparing for the interview. And really, if you've gone to that point, you could have been preparing that entire time, not like in large giant chunks, but you could have been deliberately preparing for your interview throughout the entire time you're in the ICU. You could have made a deliberate effort to study just a little bit on little drugs, little topics, disease processes, and keep a binder. And it could only take 10, 15 minutes a day. But those 10, 15 minutes a day over a period of 1 year, 2 years, builds an understanding, builds a foundation that's going to serve you so well as you walk into the interview process. And I'm hearing this now more and more, you guys, that the schools that are still drilling on the clinical pathophysiology process, they're getting harder and harder and harder. And what I mean by that is they don't just care about the mechanisms of action anymore. They want to know down to the molecular level, like the G proteins and all of that. They want to know way deeper than surface level than what you can go find on Google or in just a standard textbook. A nursing textbook, for example, is probably not going to cut it. You probably have to get, an anesthesia textbook of some kind. Again, I had like a critical care drug book that was used for anesthesiology. So it was more than just a pharmacology for nursing 101. It's a much more in-depth book. So getting more advanced books to do your studying and things of that nature, because again, these schools are knowing and recognizing that there's a lot to be found on the internet, but they want to kind of test to see how far can the student take it? How much do they really understand? And is it more than just what they can just go Google on the internet before they come into the interview? And typically it's harder to find things down to the molecular level on certain pharmacology because most standard people who read things on Google are not looking for that because it's just way far over their head. And so, but they're looking to see, have you taken the time to find those things out? So I encourage you not to wait to a month or weeks before your interview to start really understanding these concepts. As you're working in the ICU and you're getting a drip, that is right then and there when you start that process of looking that up. And if you can't find what you're looking for, just keep going with it. On your off shift, when you get off work, maybe you can't figure it out on your shift. You can't find out Wikipedia or whatever you're looking at, whatever resource you have, but then start digging into it more during the week. And so that week project is to understand that drug on a molecular level. And again, take notes, write it down in your binder and keep a binder as you progress in your ICU journey. So that way you again can build this understanding over time. So when you get to the interview process, it's not going to seem like such an overwhelming task to really study these things. That's my biggest piece of advice to you. And similarly, I hear a lot of students, well, I have shadowing, but I just never documented my shadowing. I have shadowing from the time I was in nursing school. And I do think that you should be documenting all your shadowing. And even if you can't remember everything, I would still write down what you do know, because some of these schools are wanting names of the CRNAs that you shadowed. And maybe you shadowed and you somewhat remember what you did, but you don't remember the CRNA. I would still document what you do remember from it, because it shows a longer path versus just getting one recent shadowing experience to check a box so you can submit your application. You're not giving yourself credit for all the other shadowing experiences you did, even though you didn't have them documented and you documented the most recent one. I still think it's worth mentioning that you have other experiences, because it then shows that you've been on this path for longer, that you didn't just come to the interview submission and check a box, that you've been shadowing because you've been investigating this career path over the course of 2 or 3 years. So these all show discipline, and discipline discipline happens over a period of time. Discipline, again, is not just a quick fix. It happens over a period of time that you stick the path. And so by documenting and doing these long-term study plans, that's showing discipline towards your goal. And a lot of you are already doing it. You're just not thinking of it that way. And you're maybe not documenting it or taking notes on it. So I encourage you to start doing those things now to make sure that you're getting the most out of it that you can. But yeah, that was my answer. Is discipline can really set you apart because it can really show both in your application and also in your interview. It can really, and again, keep in mind the interview sometimes 80, 100 students for just 20, 30 spots. And it's really easy for them to tell which candidates come in very well prepared. And sometimes even someone who's really well prepared with their knowledge and with their emotional intelligence type kind of questions, they let the nerves get the best of them because maybe they didn't put themselves in a practice mode. Maybe they didn't put themselves in enough uncomfortable positions around people they didn't know and had them quiz them. Maybe they didn't reflect upon what it looks like to be put in the hot seat and what does their body language then do? How does their voice change? How does the eye contact change? Do they smile? And also, how well do you know the programs too? I think sometimes you focus so much on you, which is great, but you forget that you're also interviewing for X program and Z program and Y program, and you kind of lump them together. And then when they ask you, why do you want to come to our school? You don't really have a really fulfilling answer to give them. So making sure that you understand what each school's mission statement is and what type of candidate they are actually looking for. And really the best way to do this is by going to the open houses. And a lot of these open houses are going back in person, which means you may have to travel to go to an open house. And again, if you are willing to do those things, that is showing discipline that you're willing to go, even if it means traveling 3-4 hours away. And also at the end of the day, they would say, well, why wouldn't you come to our open house if you're willing to come to school here? I would think you'd be willing to come to our open house as well. So just keep in mind that they're going to see it that way, that if you're willing to travel across the country to come to school here, that you should also be willing to travel across the country to come learn more about their program. Now, that might be kind of harsh, and I'm not saying I even did that. So I'm probably the pot calling the kettle black here, because I definitely remember missing my open house and I only live like 3 hours away or 2 hours away. So again, just take it for what it's worth. But I do think it shows that you're committed to going to that program if you're willing to travel to even go to an open house. And again, there's no promise of success. Most things in life, there's no guarantee, but you do know that if you do certain things, you're more likely to have the better outcome, right? We do know that. You will be giving yourself the best chance possible if you do those hard things, but you can never count on a guarantee. If you need a guarantee, part of me wonders if I should kind of look at it this way. If you need a guarantee that you're going to be successful to become a CRNA, I would then start investigating what is it that makes you feel like that you won't. Meaning that says to me that maybe you have some insecurities about your process, about where you're at. And that's okay. That's okay. I think we all do, but it's just important for you to reflect on what those are, because that's like the golden ticket to where you need to work more. And a lot of times where we have these insecurities or have these doubts, it's telling you this is where you have to put more effort into, even though that is the hardest thing that you're going to have to do, because it's something that is the most painful for you. And everyone's little insecurities are maybe kind of scattered in different aspects of their CRNA application and journey. But if you got to recognize those little aspects though, because that is really where the focus needs to go, is where you pinpoint those insecurities to be.
Hey there, future CRNA, another dose of daily inspiration along your CRNA journey. So I'm highlighting another community member's success story today. This one is big shout out to Melissa. Congratulations on your acceptance. And thank you so very much for sharing your journey. I found out yesterday that I was accepted into the CRNA program and again, I keep this confidential, class of 2026. I truly could not have done it without the help of Jenny Finnell, Richard Wilson, and CRNA School Prep Academy. They have all proven to be invaluable and will forever be grateful for all the resources and countless hours listening to Jenny and Richard. I'm a part of the low science GPA club, so I didn't think I had a chance of getting in on the first try and doubted myself many times. For anyone applying or thinking about it in the future, believe in yourself and don't give up. And most importantly, join CRNA School Prep Academy. Thank you, Melissa. You're so sweet. And I'm so incredibly proud of you. I wanted to highlight that Melissa didn't have the strongest GPA. She said she was part of the low science GPA club, but she still got in on the first try. So I know I preach that a lot, is to look at your science GPA. However, there are a lot of things you can do to boost your science GPA and prove to these schools that currently you are able to do a graduate level science course and do it successfully, like taking an advanced pathophysiology course, for example. So again, don't let something like fear of having a less than competitive GPA hold you back from applying, because you never know. And really the only way, you guys, to kind of figure out this journey is to just start taking action. So rewards come to action takers. Whether you fail or succeed, either way, you're going to know how to move forward. Okay, so I hope that's a big takeaway for today's episode. And let's get back into today's show.
So again, it's not a bad thing to seek out, success. Like, you should want to be successful when you do something. But I just want to encourage you to reflect on, why does it feel icky if you're not promised something by doing hard work? And then that should be a self-reflection point for you to take in and kind of sit in a little bit and understand why. And, I was also telling the student too, that sometimes it's even swallowing your own pride. And I've had a lot of students come up to me at this point that I've heard them say things such as, everything was perfect, Jenny. I don't understand my GRE, my CCRN. I have great ICU experience, leadership roles, great GPA. I just don't understand how I could improve. I shouldn't have gotten rejected, but I did. I rocked the interview. I knew everything they asked me. I just don't understand, and this is kind of, again, some tough love. And I say this in the most gentle way, but it really comes down to, you probably are still missing something. And the fact that you think you're not missing something is a huge red flag that you are missing something. And usually it means something about yourself. And again, this is said in the most kindest way, but was your interview really that perfect? Is there such thing as perfection? No. And even if it's your perfection, is it their perfection on you? Remember, there are a panel of people who are assessing you, and what their idea of what they're looking for did not match. Even if in your mind it matched 100%, that is a big eye-opening moment that maybe you need some self-reflection on how others are viewing you. And again, that's nothing to feel bad about or ashamed about. That's just an opportunity for you to say, interesting, okay, I've done everything perfectly from my point of view. I thought I did well in the interview, but they didn't pick me. So could there be something that I am displaying to them that is not jiving, that maybe I am not in line with my vocals, my tone, what I'm saying, what they're interpreting is in line with who I really am and what they are looking for in a candidate. And again, I reflect on the story a lot because she went on to be successful, but we had a student who was in a similar situation. They reached out to me and she was just baffled that her coworker got in with a lower GPA, lower GRE, less ICU experience, and somehow got in. And she felt like, in a way, that she felt kind of like maybe there's some bias going on, or maybe because she wasn't funny enough, that she wasn't clever or witty or funny and she couldn't crack jokes, that's why she didn't get in. So it's probably not it, and I'm like, you have to reach out and get feedback. And when she did, they flat out were very brutal and honest with her and said, we thought you were too cocky. We thought you were arrogant. We thought you were too sure of yourself and that you would be hard to teach. And she was completely flabbergasted, like, oh, like, that is not me at all. Like, how did that happen? And it's not really, but that's okay that it happened, because now she knows and she can work on that. And as she just was shocked, she was like, that is not me. But clearly that's not what she was signaling, or for whatever reason, the environment didn't create that type of impression. And so that was just time for her to then work on that. And she did, more mock interviews. And guess what? She went in to re-interview and got accepted and is doing great. So there's a happy ending to that story, but it did take some kind of like tough love, some feedback that maybe hurt a little bit, and a way to move forward. I'm sure that happens more than not for people who, the thing is, it doesn't matter whether you have a 4.0 or all the ICU experience or all the certifications. If your interview strikes them such that you are not going to be a successful candidate for whatever reason they are in tune with, they're not going to pick you. And so keep that in mind as you progress into your interview, and to just really assess where you feel like you are. And sometimes the best way to do that, you guys, is to get insight from others. Ask your peer, ask a close peer and a non-close peer what your weaknesses are. Ask them what they don't like about you. And yeah, that might feel really awkward to come up to someone you don't know that well in your unit and be like, hey, I'm just looking for some really honest feedback because I want to work on myself. And I really appreciate if you're as brutal and as honest as you can be, and know that this is a safe place to say it. And I'm not going to see you negatively because of whatever you tell me, but I would love it if you could tell me what you don't like about me. What is it about that who I am that can bug you sometimes? I would love to know that in the most like just sacred way, because I want to try to work on that. Then go to your really close peer or your friend, best friend, BFF, ask the same question. And if especially, I mean, for the stranger, that might be kind of harder for them to swallow. Cause like, do they really trust you to tell you this information? Are you really going to like make my life miserable down the road if I do give you this feedback? So be careful again who you ask. And that also could be, but I do think if someone's not willing to tell you that who doesn't know you that well, after you introduce it that way, that could also be a signal that maybe you don't create a safe environment in your communication at work. Maybe you don't create a belief that truly this is a safe thing for you to tell me because I just want to improve myself. That in itself could be very eye-opening, right? If they're not willing to tell you that information because they don't feel safe telling you. But that being said, if they tell you, great. If they don't, maybe assess why they're not and reflect on that for a moment. And same thing, go to a close friend and ask the same thing, and then take that information and assess what you can do with it and take it to heart. And obviously it might hurt a little bit and it might be like, oh, that kind of stinks. But you guys, it's okay. Like we all have this. We all have reasons why people don't like us, and that we're all human. The person who told you what they don't like about you also has something that you probably don't like about them, right? So at the end of the day, we're all the same. We have likes and dislikes, and that's okay. That's part of being human. We have flaws, but it's more about recognizing what those flaws are and then creating the discipline and the structure around that to make improvements, even if it takes a long time. All right, well, that kind of sums up today's episode. And I want to just also kind of give you some updates too. I know I had made some updates on a few podcasts ago. It was probably too soon for me to do the update on having some new voices on the show, but I want to kind of give some insight into that because I had some people express some kind of concern that they thought I was leaving the show. And they're like, I really don't want to see you leave. And while I'm very appreciative of that, there are going to be some changes that I'm not leaving the show. So I didn't mean to come across that I'm completely gone. That's not going to be the case. I will still be involved in being the guest of the podcast, but it's going to change a little bit. It may be less frequent. I do foresee me still wanting to bring on a lot of guests on the show, and then doing intermittent episodes like this where it's just me riffing off the cuff like I normally do. But what I've always enjoyed about what I do with CRNA School Prep Academy and with you, the community, the listener, the nurse, the CRNA, the SRNA, is just bringing community into this, because I think we all have so much to share. And like I just shared that story about the student who asked me this question, the only reason why I had this reflection on discipline and what that really means is because he asked me that question. And so I get a lot of value from you. I get a lot of value from the community, and I want to share that with you, the listener, because I want you to equally get that value. And I want you to experience other people's viewpoints and insights on what it's like and what it takes to become a CRNA. And if I'm also being perfectly honest, you guys, I love to say I'm a young buck, but not really. I am getting old. So I've been out of school since 2014. Yeah, I've been out of school since 2014. So while I know a lot of things are the same, a lot, and I mean a lot has changed since I went to CRNA school. And obviously I've been a CRNA for over 9 years and I loved every moment of it. But the further and further I get out from school, I am getting further and further removed from where you're about to be. And so I want to make sure, also because I want to hear from current students myself, because that's again how I learn, is by hearing from them. But I want to ensure that you're hearing from them too. I want to ensure that you feel that connection with the community, because that is so strong. And that is what the most powerful thing you can get in your life is the community that you surround yourself with, especially when that community has the same heart and passion as you. And so that is kind of the specialness that I want to bring to the show. And because of that, we're going to have current students on the show more often. Now, is it going to be the same people all the time? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. It really depends. And this is new. We're going to go with it, see how it goes, see how it works. I would love your feedback once we do start doing this. Again, we're going to be talking about things like current topics in clinical that they're struggling with or that they're learning, or maybe certain anesthesia concepts that they're learning that, maybe study with me session kind of thing, or maybe talking about burnout or stress or eating healthy or relationships, and from someone who's currently actively in it. Because man, if I had recorded myself back in the day, first of all, I have no idea what I would have said. I would love to think that I would have been really insightful, but I also think it would have been super raw, super real. And I can reflect on it now, probably more thoughtfully than I could have at the time. I would like to think so, but I don't know. Because at the time I was going through CRNA school, I didn't have a platform like this. I didn't speak my voice. I held a lot of it in. I shared it with my classmates and my husband, but I think there would have been a lot of value in sharing what I was going through as I was going through it, because it would have been really fresh in my mind. So that's kind of my hope too, is to connect with students who are really fresh and who are really kind of what I call in the thick of it in CRNA school, and kind of understand what it is they're learning, what it is they're struggling with, and things of that nature. to give you a very well-rounded picture of what's in store for you in your journey. And even if it's not in store for you, it just gives you insight into what are the possibilities. And the beauty about insight is you should never live through someone else, in the sense that you should never portray or project someone else's experience onto you, because that's actually a huge mistake. But the beauty in seeing someone else's journey or hearing about their experience, it allows you to either avoid certain things for yourself, meaning like, okay, well, that's not what I want to happen to me, or that's very insightful, or, oh, I wouldn't do that, but I would do that. And it just allows you to reflect on, what does that mean to you in your own personal experience? And how can you leverage that information to get further, quicker, better, less stressful, and make your journey more smooth? And so that's kind of the whole point, from bringing on a different variety of students to hear from on the show. But again, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be here. I would never, ever leave you guys. I don't know when this is going to air, but I did get behind on the podcast, because between traveling, I went to another nursing conference, Florida, with IntelliCare, which was great. And then I went straight to NTI. So I have been busy for the last half of the month of May, but we are already into June, which is exciting. So yeah, if you guys have any feedback or any suggestions for the show, if you have suggestions for guests, or if you want to be a guest in the show, again, I love to have aspiring CRNAs, current students on the show as well. So don't ever hesitate to email hello@CRNASchoolPrepAcademy.com and let me know. All right, you guys take care, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye.
Hey, future CRNA, as always, I appreciate you and your loyalty. Thank you so very much for tuning in this week. I'd love to hear from you, so screenshot this episode and share it to your IG stories with your biggest takeaway. Don't forget to tag me at CRNA School Prep Academy so I can personally thank you. Be sure to head over to CRNASchoolPrepAcademy.com to check out our blog and gather free resources to help you along your CRNA journey. Stay strong, and I'll see you next week.